Welcome to the weekend edition of the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed. I'm Michael Thompson and hello, Sean Aylmer.
Hello, Michael.
Sean, on weekdays, it's all about the Fast 5, the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. On the weekend, we still keep it to 5 minutes, of course, but we're going to pick out the biggest story of the week, the most remarkable business story, a sleeper story, one that's flying under the radar a little bit, and our favourite story. Let's get going with the biggest story. What was it for you this week?
For mine, it was a Reserve Bank board meeting. Now, admittedly, nothing happened. They left the benchmark cash rate at 4.35%, but they also sharply revised upwards their inflation forecast. That's the board of the Reserve Bank did that, warning that the pace of price growth isn't falling as fast as hoped. It means for most of us, we'll keep paying these 12-year higher interest rates for the foreseeable future on our home loans, car loans, credit cards, etc. Economists reckon, given what the Reserve Bank said, interest rates won't change till the end of this year. Now, the bank has made it very clear that interest rates could go up, they could go down. They don't want to push anyone one way or another. And the problem is that parts of inflation, things like rent, insurance, education, the prices of those things or the price growth isn't coming down fast enough. So the upshot of all that, from what we heard from the Reserve Bank board this week, rates on hold. Probably the next move will still be a cut, but not until next year at the earliest.
Yeah, that is a big story this week, Sean. Look, let's move on to most remarkable, and I've got a fantastic I call it fantastic myself, but I think it is a pretty remarkable story. It's been a big week for, I guess you'd call it corporate rehabilitation. I'm combining two stories into one here. Optus got a new CEO, Stephen Rue, the current head of NBN Co, jumping ship. He's coming over to Australia's number 2 telco. He could be exactly what Optus needs, a very experienced kind of player in the industry, coming across to steady the ship after a disastrous 18 months that had the massive Optus outage, the huge cyber attack the previous year, all did a phenomenal amount of brand damage to Optus. And I think this new appointment this week has actually probably helped Optus to turn a corner. Similar story this week for Qantas, because the national carrier reached a deal this week with the ACCC to pay a $120 million penalty over the sale of tickets on flights that had already been cancelled. It was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back last year, saw CEO Alan Joyce bow to a lot of pressure, step down early. That's now behind them. You've got the new CEO, Vanessa Hudson, out in front of investors this week, revealing that demand for premium economy and business and first class is stronger than ever. It sounds to me like Qantas might have turned a corner this week as well. You've got Optus, you've got Qantas, arguably the two most damaged brands in Australia last year, both taking big steps this week to repair their image. I think that's pretty remarkable.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one, Michael.
Have you been able to find us a sleeper story, Sean?
I have. We've now had 3 of the big 4 banks provide half-year earnings. What's noticeable is the big share buybacks they're doing. National Australia Bank's buying back $1.5 billion worth of their shares. Westpac's buying back $1 billion worth. ANZ's $2 billion. When you buy back shares, it means fewer shares on issue, same earnings per share should rise. Therefore, the share price should rise. That's the whole idea. It also suggests that management and the board haven't found anything better to do with the money. They aren't spending it on new businesses or expanding old businesses to improve earnings. The buyback might look good in the short term, but they do little to grow a business. And this is where the sleeper part of the story comes in. If senior management and boards aren't sure where growth is going to come from for the banks, then how are we to know where it's going to come from? And these are companies trading at multi-year highs in share price terms. That should be happening when growth prospects are very strong. But that's not the case. Methinks bank investors might be in for a bit of a rocky road.
I think you could be right. Just a quick sleeper story from me. It's come from the Productivity Commission. They did a report this week on the My Health Record data portal. Now, this is that digital record of everyone's kind of health data. It's supposed to let patients see different doctors, specialists, all kinds of things about a whole lot of different issues, and your records just travel with you. The problem is, though, it's not being used to its full potential. Just 2% of documents in the system are actually being looked at by doctors. Records are incomplete. There's poor interoperability, and it's got poor usability. It's a $2 billion system. It's supposed to be the way of the future. The Productivity Commission has drawn attention to that this week, and I reckon we're going to see some measures taken to really get doctors using it, to get patients comfortable with it being used, because it is the 21st century.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Favourite story? Go for it, Sean.
Very quickly, AVZ Minerals. For all the wrong reasons, shareholders in the Lithium Explorer face one of the biggest wealth wipeouts in share market history after management said it will delist from the ASX in a week's time. The Perth-based Explorer has 21,000 shareholders. It was worth $4.6 billion in April 2022 when it said it had the rights, or it suggested it had the rights, to a massive lithium deposit in the Congo. A month later, said it was in a legal dispute with Congolese and Chinese interests. went back down to $2.8 billion. Share trading was halted, has never come back on. It has $4.2 million in the bank. I reckon that'll be used up in legal disputes. So that $2.8 billion worth of wealth that is sitting there in the share market could well be wiped out. Quite an incredible story for that lithium miner.
Yeah, it really is. An honourable mention as well, Sean, for this story came from the Australian HR Institute, a survey that shows 57% of employers believe the skills gap is harming organisations. That's kind of alarming. But this next stat, you got to love this. Apparently, almost 20% of workers are considered not proficient in their role. That's got to cause some pretty uncomfortable conversations in workplaces, and everyone just looking around going, is it you? Because it sure ain't me.
They've got me.
Yeah, I've been sprung. There we go. 5 minutes and pretty much everything you need to know in the world of business. Thank you, Sean.
Thank you, Michael.
We'll be back on Monday morning with the top 5 business stories in 5 minutes. Don't forget to hit follow. Join us online on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook and X. I'm Michael Thompson, and this is the Fast 5 Business News by Fear and Greed.